You ever notice how you can spot the red flags early and still walk straight past them like they're decorative? You tell yourself this time will be different, or I know it's messy, but the chemistry is real. And later, usually much later, you're sitting with a friend, replaying the highlights like game footage, wondering how you fell for the same kind of person again. Maybe it's not the wrong person, maybe it's the same pattern wearing a different jacket. And here's the uncomfortable part. The people we fall for often make perfect psychological sense, just not in the way we like to admit. Today we're going to look at why we're drawn to the wrong people, not in a blamey way, but in a revealing one. The kind where you start seeing your past relationships less as bad luck and more as information. So let's start with a familiar scene. You meet someone who feels electric. The conversations run late. There's intensity, depth, maybe a little chaos. You feel seen, or at least intensely activated. Friends raise their eyebrows. You shrug it off. They just don't get it. This is often the pattern of someone who confuses intensity with intimacy. When your nervous system is used to emotional unpredictability, maybe from childhood, maybe from past relationships. Calm can feel suspicious, boring even. Intensity, on the other hand, feels like truth, like passion, like connection. Your body lights up not because you're safe, but because you're alert. The wrong person, in this case, isn't wrong because they're cruel or broken. They're wrong because they recreate a familiar emotional weather system. Highs and lows, nearness and distance, chemistry that keeps you guessing. And you might not even realize you're addicted to the guessing. You tell yourself you're deep or emotional or romantic, but what you're really drawn to is stimulation, the kind that keeps you leaning forward, waiting, hoping. Ask yourself this: when someone is steady, consistent, and emotionally available, do you relax, or do you start to feel strangely restless? Then there's another type of attraction, quieter, subtler. You fall for people who are unavailable, but not in obvious ways. They're kind, interesting, maybe even caring, but something is always just out of reach. Timing, distance, emotional openness. There's always a reason it can't quite work. This often shows up in people who are deeply self-reliant, people who learned early that needing too much was risky. So instead of wanting closeness directly, they choose proximity to someone they don't fully have to lean on. Unavailable people offer a paradox: connection without full vulnerability. You can yearn without being fully known. You can invest emotionally while telling yourself you're being realistic. There's also a quiet form of self-protection here. If it never fully works, you never fully fail. The relationship doesn't end because you weren't enough, but because it was impossible from the start. And the wrong person becomes a safe place to hide your deeper longings. Because as long as they're unavailable, you never have to test what would happen if someone actually stayed. Then there's the fixer. You meet someone who's struggling, emotionally, practically, and maybe even existentially. Something in you lights up, not with desire exactly, but with purpose. You understand them. You can help them. You can be the steady one. This pattern often comes from people who learn to earn love through usefulness, through emotional labor, through being the one who understands, absorbs, adjusts. The wrong person here isn't chosen because they're exciting. They're chosen because they need you, and being needed feels like belonging. But slowly, something shifts. Your needs keep shrinking. Their growth feels slower than your patience. You're holding the relationship together with insight and empathy, telling yourself this is what love looks like, until one day you realize you're exhausted, and instead of feeling chosen, you feel required. And then there's the most deceptive pattern of all. You fall for people who reflect who you could be. They're creative, bold, socially fluid, emotionally expressive, qualities you admire but haven't fully claimed in yourself. Being with them feels like standing near a warmer version of your own life. Their confidence feels contagious. Their freedom feels aspirational, but admiration is not intimacy. When attraction is built on projection, the relationship becomes uneven. You're not meeting them as an equal. You're orbiting them, learning from them, measuring yourself against them. And slowly, without noticing, you start outsourcing your sense of aliveness. Instead of asking, who am I becoming? You start asking, do they still choose me? The wrong person, in this case, becomes a mirror that flatters until it begins to distort. But here's the twist that ties all of this together. We don't fall for the wrong people randomly. We fall for the people who make sense to the version of us that hasn't fully healed yet. Attraction isn't a moral compass. It's a memory system. It pulls us toward what feels familiar, what feels earned, what feels survivable. That's why awareness alone doesn't instantly fix the pattern. You can understand all of this and still feel the pull, still feel your heart speed up around the same types, still rationalize the same dynamics. Real change happens not when you force yourself to choose better, but when your nervous system learns a new definition of safety, when calm stops feeling empty, when availability stops feeling suspicious, when being chosen feels normal instead of overwhelming. And that kind of change takes time. It takes reflection. reflection, and sometimes a few wrong people along the way. So maybe the real question isn't why you fall for the wrong people. Maybe it's which version of you keeps choosing them. And more importantly, who are you becoming now? Which pattern felt uncomfortably familiar? Which one surprised you? If this landed somewhere personal, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. You're just learning in the most human way possible. And if you want to keep exploring the psychology behind these patterns, you already know where to find the next video.